Imagine this. Two people wake up on Monday morning. They both go to work, they both earn a salary, and they both live in the same city. 20 years later, one of them is financially free, while the other is still living paycheck to paycheck. Same economy, same opportunities, and the same number of hours in a day. So what changed? Why does one person slowly build wealth, while the other constantly feels like they're running out of money? And before you say it's about income, let me stop you right there, because that's the part that makes this so hard to accept. The person living paycheck to paycheck isn't necessarily earning less. In fact, sometimes they're earning more, sometimes significantly more, and that's exactly what makes this situation so frustrating for so many people. They get raises, they work overtime, they pick up extra shifts, and yet at the end of every month, the feeling is exactly the same. Where did it all go? Now, here's something even stranger. In the United States, one of the richest countries in the world, millions of people say they wouldn't be able to handle an unexpected $400 expense. Not a medical emergency, not losing a job, just $400. Think about that for a second. We're talking about a country where people earn six figures and where there are more millionaires than anywhere else on the planet, and yet millions of working adults, people with jobs, salaries, and normal everyday lives are just one small emergency away from a financial crisis. That single number reveals something incredibly important. Being broke usually isn't about how much money you earn. It's about how money flows through your life. It's about the decisions you make with it, the habits you've built around it, and the way you think about it. And most people never realize the habits that quietly keep them stuck in the exact same financial cycle year after year. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't stay broke because of the economy, and they don't stay broke because the system is rigged against them. They stay broke because of a handful of financial behaviors that slowly destroy wealth over time. Behaviors that feel completely normal. Spending habits that everyone around them is doing. Patterns that nobody ever pointed out, because nobody around them knew any differently either. And in this video, we're going to break all of that down. Some of what I'm about to share might surprise you, and honestly, some of it might feel a little too familiar. But once you start seeing these patterns, you begin to understand why a small percentage of people manage to build wealth, while most people never escape the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. So let's get into it. The first reason, and I genuinely think this is the biggest one of all, is that most people have no financial destination. And I want you to really think about what that means. Think about how you plan a vacation. You choose a destination, you figure out how to get there, you book your flights, you know where you're staying, you set the dates, and you make a plan. There's a clear direction, and everything you do moves you closer to that destination. But when it comes to money, most people operate with absolutely zero direction. Money comes in, money goes out. Maybe something is left at the end of the month, maybe it isn't. There's no target, no timeline, no specific number they're working toward, and no date by which they want to reach a certain goal. They're just existing financially and moving through life without any clear destination in mind. And when there's no destination, every financial decision becomes random. You walk into a store, you see something you like, and you ask yourself one simple question: can I afford this? If the money is sitting in your account, the answer is usually yes, so you buy it. And that feels perfectly fine in the moment, but what you don't realize is that you just made a financial decision without any real context, without any filter, and without any bigger picture to measure it against. Because when there's no destination, almost any road feels like the right one. But people who actually build wealth tend to ask a completely different question. Not can I afford this, but does this purchase move me closer to where I want to be or further away from it? Same situation, same store, same item, but a completely different question. And that question only exists if you actually have somewhere you're trying to go. That small shift in thinking, practiced consistently over months and years, creates a completely different financial outcome. This is exactly why two people can earn the same income, live in the same city, and work at the same company, yet end up in completely different financial situations 20 years later. One of them had a destination, the other was simply moving. And over time, every slightly better decision that comes from having a destination starts adding up to something that looks like a miracle from the outside. but it's not a miracle. It's simply direction applied consistently over time. Now, the second thing that keeps people stuck is something that sounds boring, but I need you to hear me out on this one. No emergency fund. Life is unpredictable. Not sometimes, always. Cars break down, medical bills show up out of nowhere, things in your house stop working, unexpected expenses find you no matter how carefully you plan everything else. These aren't rare events, they're not worst-case scenarios, they're just life, and they happen to almost everyone at some point. But nearly 40% of Americans have $0 set aside for when they do. Zero. So when something unexpected hits, the only option is debt. A credit card for the car repair, a loan for the medical bill, another monthly payment added to the pile. And at first, it feels manageable. You tell yourself you'll pay it off quickly. It's just temporary. But then life happens again. Something else breaks. Another bill shows up. Another unexpected expense that couldn't have been predicted. And another payment gets added. And slowly, quietly, month after month, a bigger and bigger portion of income is already committed before the month even begins. Before groceries, before rent, before anything. A growing percentage of what someone earns is already spoken for. And that's when people start wondering why they feel broke even though they're earning decent money. It's not because they're spending recklessly right now. It's because past emergencies are eating their present income. And without a safety net, every new surprise makes the hole a little deeper. The third one catches almost everyone who gets a raise or a promotion. It's called lifestyle inflation. And it's sneaky because it doesn't feel like a trap. It actually feels like progress. You work hard, you get a raise. For a moment, you feel genuinely ahead of where you were. You deserve it, you earned it. But a few months go by, and almost without noticing, your lifestyle quietly expands around you. You move into a nicer apartment because you can finally afford it. You upgrade your car because the old one was getting old anyway. You start eating at better restaurants because, why not? You've earned it. You spend a little more freely in general because there's more coming in. And before you know it, the new salary feels just as tight as the old one did. Because your lifestyle grew at exactly the same rate as your income. The gap between what you earn and what you spend never actually got bigger. It just reset at a higher level. And this is the trap that catches so many people. Because wealth isn't just about how much you make. Wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you spend. The wider that gap, the faster wealth grows. The moment that gap closes, you stop building. You're just running on a more expensive treadmill. Now I want to pause here for a second, because everything we've talked about so far, the missing destination, the no safety net, the lifestyle inflation, these are just the first part of the picture. In part 2, we're going to get into the habits that are even quieter, even harder to notice, but just as damaging. So make sure you watch that right after this. If you watched part 1, you already know the first 3 reasons most people stay broke even when they're earning good money. No financial destination, no emergency fund, lifestyle inflation. And hopefully at least one of those hit a little close to home. Because that's exactly where change starts. Now let's talk about the ones that are a little harder to see. The fourth one is something I think almost everyone can relate to. Not knowing where your money is actually going. And I don't mean in a vague sense. I mean genuinely, completely having no idea. If I asked you right now how much you spent last month on coffee, on food delivery, on subscriptions you signed up for and forgot about, on things you bought online late at night without really thinking it through, would you actually know? Be honest, most people don't. And here's the thing. Individually, those expenses feel harmless. It's just a coffee. It's just a delivery fee. It's just a subscription that's only a few dollars a month. But research shows the average American spends over $1,400 every single year on impulse purchases alone. Not rent, not groceries, not bills, just things they bought without planning to. And that's not even counting the subscriptions they forgot they had. The small recurring charges that quietly pull money out every month without anyone noticing. Without tracking that spending, those leaks stay completely invisible. Money just disappears. And month after month, people look at their bank account and genuinely can't explain where it went. Not because they're careless people, but because they never had a system to see it clearly. And what you can't see, you can't fix. The fifth one doesn't get talked about enough, and that's the role of social pressure in financial decisions. Because a huge amount of the spending people do isn't driven by what they actually want. It's driven by how they want to be perceived. The nicer car that they stretch their budget to afford, the branded clothes that signal a certain status, the going out and spending money at expensive places because everyone in their circle is doing it and not going feels like falling behind. A lot of these financial decisions aren't really about the thing being purchased. They're about the image that comes with it. And this is one of the most expensive games people play without ever realizing they're playing it. Because here's the irony. People who are genuinely building wealth, they usually don't live like that. They're not the ones with the flashiest cars or the most recognizable brands on their clothing. They're the ones quietly making decisions based on where they want to be financially, not how they want to appear. They invest, they build assets, they let money grow in the background. While everyone around them spends money creating the appearance of wealth, actually, wealthy people are focused on building the reality of it. The sixth reason is about income itself. Most people rely on a single source, their job. That's it. One paycheck, one financial engine. And if that engine stops for any reason, everything stops with it. Now, I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. I'm saying that depending completely on one source of income is one of the most financially fragile positions a person can be in. Because that single source can disappear. Companies downsize, industries change, health issues happen, and when the only income stream dries up, the consequences are immediate. But people who build real financial security eventually create additional streams, and it almost never starts big. It starts with something small. Maybe it's freelance work on the side. Maybe it's a small investment that pays dividends. Maybe it's a digital product or a simple online business that generates a little extra every month. None of these things look impressive in the beginning, but they grow, and over time they create something incredibly powerful. Income that doesn't depend entirely on trading your time for someone else's dollars. According to IRS data, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. Not 7 jobs, not 7 businesses, 7 streams, built slowly and deliberately over years. And the last one, I genuinely think this is the most underrated reason people stay broke. Financial education. Most people were never actually taught how money works. We were taught how to study hard, get a good job, and earn a paycheck, but nobody explained what to do with that paycheck once it arrived. Nobody taught us how to manage money, how to protect it, how to invest it, how to make it work for us instead of just passing through our hands on the way to someone else's pocket. So most people figure it out through trial and error, and some of those errors are incredibly expensive. Years of paying high interest on debt that could have been avoided, money left sitting in accounts that never grew, opportunities missed simply because nobody knew they existed. But the people who take time to actually learn about budgeting, about investing, about how wealth is built, they gain an advantage that compounds over time just like money does. Because the better you understand money, the better every decision you make with it becomes. And better decisions made consistently over years lead to a completely different financial life. Now, when you step back and look at all of these patterns together, something becomes really clear. Most people don't stay broke because of one massive mistake. They stay broke because of small habits, repeated quietly for years. Small spending choices, small financial decisions, small behaviors that feel completely normal in the moment but slowly shape the entire direction of someone's financial life. And here's the good news, the real good news. Every single one of these habits can be changed. Not overnight, not all at once, but one decision at a time. Wealth doesn't appear suddenly. It grows quietly through consistent decisions made with intention day after day. And the moment you start making those decisions differently, your financial future can start changing in ways you never expected. If this video gave you even one idea that shifts how you think about money, drop a comment below and tell me which part hit closest to home. I read every single one. And if you want to keep going deeper on this, building real financial habits, actually growing your money, getting out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle for good, then subscribe because that's exactly what this channel is about. I'll see you in the next one.